Hi, Mama.
Good morning, daughter.
Today's yoga question is really simple. Why is it so difficult to sit down and do nothing, to sit and meditate?
This is not a simple question. You lied to me this morning.
But it looks like doing nothing. Why is it so hard?
I believe that we can measure if we wanted to, so I use that somewhat in quotes, our advancement in yoga practice by our ability to be still. That to be physically still, to be without going to sleep or running away, to be still and present, to be virtually still with the breath, and to be in a place of stillness that lives beyond thought. So to watch thought in the distance, rising and falling like waves on the ocean, is to feel that stillness. And what we've done in our world is that in our Western world especially, but many places in the world, we have a lot of physical movement that is available. We can go fast in airplanes and fast in cars. We don't walk the natural human rhythm to go most places. We go fast. We have very fast communication with telephones and Skype like we're on right now and internet. And we have access to moving our minds and our thoughts through all kinds of media and reading. And we have a plethora of stimulations for the mind. We can move and think and be. Tomorrow I could be in Antarctica. And so when we've taken on yoga practice, and I'm thinking now of the part of yoga asana, the movements, the poses, that we have westernized it, and we have spent more and more time on moving more, moving more deeply. It's always going somewhere else. And I have found, actually, in the last 5 years or so, that people in my classes have, in greater numbers, have more and more problem with lying down in Shavasana and just being still. And the comment that is made to me repeatedly is, I can't do Shavasana, it agitates me. I always smile sardonically, wickedly, and suggest gently that the agitation was already there. We are actually, if we want to peel this onion right down to the core of nothingness, is we're afraid.
Of what?
Just about everything. In many ways, we're very afraid of, it all stems from our fear of death and loss, of course, but we're so afraid, and we've adopted this strategy. It's very human of us, all of us do this, of avoiding and denying. And so when we're asked to sit still and to give up all our strategies, to give up our strategy of moving, of in the pose, of performing the pose, progressing in the pose, to give up our strategy of achievement and accumulation of experience and ideas and money and whatever.
Achievement, ambition, yeah.
Ambition, achievement, all. When we are asked to just sit with ourselves, our naked selves, we're terrified, because our inner life is the most our inner life, our inner being, our innerness is the most foreign land. It is the most unexplored place. There are no really exotic places left on the earth, really. Not very many, not like there used to be. I remember when you were quite young in the 80s that an employee of your father's law firm had gone to China. And one day I picked up the telephone. Now this is in your lifetime. And it was she calling me from China. And I was dumbstruck that someone could call me from China. My grandmother probably never saw or knew someone who was born in China. Then my level was, oh my God, this person is calling me from China. And I have stood in the middle of Tiananmen Square. I have been to the Forbidden City. I have walked around the Forbidden City, the center of Beijing. And so what is exotic anymore? What is strange? What is unusual as far as the outer world is? There's, of course, exceptions, but it's not the same. So we can go pretty much anywhere if we have the funds and the time, and we're fortunate enough to do that. There's no unusual places except the interior geography. And so when we're asked in an asana, when we're asked to practice an asana in class, or we ask it of ourselves, we believe that it is about the moving part of the pose. That's what, there's a very popular practice, as we all know, vinyasa, which means from the wind. It has to do with linking the poses. But I believe that what makes a vinyasa is the stillness between the movements, that moving from pose to pose is learning to live in the canyons, in the spaces, in the silence between the moving, instead of jumping from mountaintop to mountaintop, from end product to end product. And so I think we need to remember, at least I'm talking to myself here, that the practice is not about any form of movement. It's about the radicalness of stillness, the deepening of the willingness to look inward at my shadows, my shadow self in the Jungian sense, what I like about myself, what I'm afraid from about myself, the places that, the dark alleys, the back alleys of my consciousness. That's why all those tankas, those great paintings are showing fierce deities.
Mama, hold on. Yeah, speaking of stillness, something is moving your microphone a lot. You've got to...
Right.
But so have we gotten lost in movement?
Movement feels very familiar. So I wouldn't say that in a grandiose way, as if I knew, we have gotten lost, but I like that you raised the question. You said to me something about, do we practice asana to prepare for meditation, or is it a meditation itself? And the answer is yes. It's both. Today, right now, is a preparation for tomorrow. But paradoxically, at the same time, this is it. I'm preparing for my life at the same time that I'm living it. So Mr. Iyengar once was asked a question similar to this, and he held up his hand and he said, "What is this?" And some people said 5 fingers, and some people said 1 hand. And both are true at the same time. It is separate fingers and united hand. So a lot of our practice has to do with our intention. Are we practicing to move to the eye of the hurricane? Whatever, because the ultimate freedom is what's ever going on around me, what's ever spinning around my mind, what's happening in the edges of my consciousness, of my body, my emotions, that there's still a connection and awareness and an honoring of the place where none of that is happening. Mm-hmm. So I was listening to NPR, National Public Radio, and the host of a talk show was interviewing Deepak Chopra, who's a well-known doctor and writer about health. And was asking him, what is reality made up of?
Okay.
Let's cut to the quick here. Right away. So he said, well, it's made up of atoms. Well, what are atoms made of? Well, there's the subatomic particles, the electrons and the protons and the neutrons, and then what's under that? What's building that? And he mentioned quarks, or I don't know. You're losing me here on my physics. I just made my A in physics and got out while the getting was good. So there's those, and he said, well, what's under that? And Deepak Chopra sort of giggled and he said nothing. So the host said, so you're telling me that reality is based on nothing? So he said, yes. In his calm way, he said yes. And so that is what we are afraid of. Mm-hmm. The fundamental reality that everything is based on nothing. At the same time, there are all the things that we see and experience. There is a body, there is a physical world and tables, and there is headstands. So what I think this practice is about is to be willing to sit on the fence of consciousness, rooted in my stillness, enjoying my movement.
So Friday, 2 days from now, I'm going to go to a vinyasa flow class that I love. So while I'm doing the 1,000 sun salutations, what advice would you offer me and other students? What can I hold as a mantra or hold to make sure that I'm actually practicing in a way that is supporting my path towards meditation?
Well, it can be meditation itself. Mm-hmm. So techniques are, of course, never, ever lose contact with your breath. To stay present with the breath is to pray. It's to worship. It's to enter the temple of your own being, into that spaciousness where nothing and everything live. So to ride the surface of the breath without judgment, and to be with the sensations of that breath, not just the flow of air in and out. To notice how the breath changes, how it's inhibited, where it goes, to stay present with that. And to also, a technique that I like very much is to remain as much as I can in my belly. Now, there is the stomach, which is an organ under the bottom left ribs. There's the abdomen, which is an anatomical word that's bounded by the pubic bone and the ribs and the xiphoid process, and we can define the abdomen. But the belly, to me, is a more amorphous. It is, I wrote about this in my book called Yoga Abs. It is that emotional, energetic center of our being. Our gut. We have words and expressions in English like, I knew in my gut that was the right thing to do. It's that deep, archetypal feminine, intuitive, mysterious, knowing place in the center of our body. Where we feel life first. And to stay there as much as you can. And then to just do the pose and not worry about it.
And then sit afterward.
Let sitting, if you can, in your own practice at home, let sitting arise. Let stillness arise. Invite stillness. And if you are in a pose and you feel that stillness, just be there. Let sitting arise. I get that stillness for me, particularly these days, in a supported shoulder stand, where there is a spontaneous pratyahara, often for me, thank God, a spontaneous pulling in away from the edges. And I let my body do the pose, and I rest. Like the body has become a pillow for the soul.
That's a beautiful image to end on. Thank you, Mama.
You are particularly welcome today. I'm so happy to have these chances to share my thoughts with you and to hear yours. Namaste.
Namaste. And thank you for listening. If you're interested in more conversations like this, you might like to pre-order the digital course that my mom and I are producing, which will be out at the 1st of October, but you can pre-order it now at her website, judithhansenlassiter.com.